Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Insight into the Circulatory System, Function, and Therapeutics. And before we get started, I'd like to go over just a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You've joined the presentation listening to your computer speaker system by default. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing in your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation, and we will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. So today's webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view the recording. And just a little note that this webinar is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Dr. Morses is not responsible for individual decisions or actions taken based on this webinar. So for personalized guidance, consult a healthcare professional. And now let's get started. I would like to introduce to you Colleen Bingham.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our October educational webinar, all about the circulatory system. We're so glad you're here. My goal today is to introduce you to this system and review how it functions and discuss supportive herbal therapeutics for the health of the heart and the blood. If this is your first time with us, welcome. This is our 6th live webinar, all about different body systems and our body systems educational series. So for webinar recordings of lymphatic, urinary, digestive, nervous, and endocrine systems, head to our website, click the Learn tab, and then the Body Systems webinar tab. And you will find all the treasure trove that is this amazing Body Systems webinar series. All of them will be long blogs associated with the webinar recordings of each of these systems. And Jen will now add a direct link to that page into the chat. So take a look at your little chat window there. Okay, and also, most of you know this, but we're now dividing our webinars into 2 different presentations. So today we're focusing on the anatomy and physiology of the circulatory system, and we are meeting the main supportive herbs. And then in 2 weeks, on November 1st, Jen will be discussing all of the great ways Dr. Morse pairs his formulas to support healthy blood clotting processes, healthy red blood cell levels, and healthy heart function. And Jen is now going to add the registration link to the chat as well. So please join us for that. My name is Colleen Bingham, and I will be your guide today. I am a certified herbalist and have been walking the plant path as a passion and career for the past 13 years. I am Director of Education and Innovation here at Dr. Morse's and alumni of Dr. Morse's International School of Healing Arts. I'm also an educator for live classes here in Sonoma County at a local herb school. And today I am joined by Jen, B, and Stephanie, who some of you probably know very well. They've collectively been your support team here at Dr. Morse for over 10 years. So they will be fielding your questions throughout the webinar. And we are so honored to have you all here. There, as usual, we have alumni from the International School of Healing Arts here. We have our retail partners, we have our customers, and we have people that might be brand new to the brand. So welcome to the community. If you're new here, we really hope that this presentation helps give you a taste of what we're all about here at Dr. Morse. And so speaking of Dr. Morse, this is the reason we've all come here today. Dr. Robert Morse's life work is to unlock the body's natural ability to heal by supporting its regenerative detoxification processes. For over 45 years, Dr. Morse has been educating humanity on how to remove obstructions in the physical and energetic channels connecting body, mind, and spirit through proper diet and the support of his transformative herbal supplement formulas. It's a really incredible mission that this man has been on. And over the years, we have witnessed profound health shifts by encouraging deep detoxification within the body through diet and the support of our herbal supplements. Our emphasis on education is here to empower you, because you as an individual are the guide of your own health journey. You're the architect, if you will. And we want you to make informed choices about your personal health goals. So we're here to support you anything you need. Thank you for being a part of the Dr. Morse's family. We are where our collective journey towards vibrant health is a powerful force for global healing. I will get that right one of these days because I really love that sentence. All right, so feel free to ask questions. You have a Q&A webinar chat window, so you can type in all of your questions there. And Stephanie and Jen will be working as fast as they can to answer as many questions as they can. But of course, we won't be able to get to all of your questions. We are going to be reserving 10 minutes at the end where Jen will be asking me questions directly. So we're going to save some of the questions for that portion of the day. But otherwise, feel free to ask anything. And if you do not get your questions answered, info@dmhhc.com is where you'll go. In fact, the address is right down here at the bottom of your screen. Actually, I take that back. Don't ask anything. It's best that we focus to the subject at hand, right? So circulatory system related questions are awesome. Questions about the herbs we're talking about, those are the kinds of questions we'll have the time to answer. Okay, great. And we always incentivize you to stay till the end of the presentation where we'll be giving you a coupon code for all of the formulas that we'll be discussing here today. You'll get 15% off for the next 48 hours on all of the formulas we discussed today. So definitely stay till the end to grab that code. And today's agenda, let's just go over this really quickly. We'll start with the anatomy and physiology of the circulatory system. We'll discuss the heart, the blood, circulation, and I'd say most importantly, the role of this body system in whole body detoxification. Then we get to go on our herb walk and meet all of the wonderful herbs that Dr. Morse has formulated into his blood support or healthy blood formulas, and how great they are and how supportive they are to the system. And finally, if time, we will do some additional therapeutics. We'll talk about diet and fasting. Jen will hop on for that part. And we'll talk about how we increase versus decrease heart rate and heart rate variability, which I think is a fascinating subject of conversation. So definitely stick around for that. All right. So before we dive into the anatomy and physiology of the system, I just really want to paint this larger picture. I always like to do this at the beginning with a little bit of a grounding moment to give gratitude for the body that we have, for wherever you're at in your process of healing and your detoxification journey, and to take this microcosm that is you and expand the view to the macrocosm that is our planet, that is our solar system, that is the universe. I mean, we're going to talk about cells today and how cells are full of water and we are full of water and the earth is full of water. And yes, we're talking about blood today, but blood and water and the movement of these channels in the body is so critical to health and well-being. And just how these rivers are carving into a landscape and sending out their tendrils, their tributaries into the forest and sending all those nutrients that they gather from the mountaintops and bringing it and washing it over the plains and the forest basin. And animals are collecting food from these rivers and carrying them into the woods and leaving their waste product behind, which is nourishing the soil. And it's this beautiful ecosystem if it's working properly. And I'm sure you've all experienced the difference between a healthy waterway and a toxic waterway when you are visiting a river. I mean, let's talk about the Mississippi River, right? Right now, we are experiencing an issue where there's not enough water, there's not enough hydration in that part of the world for that river to be flowing properly, and the impact that that has on everyone. So let's do a really quick exercise, a grounding exercise. If you are familiar with pulse reading, you're going to take the 3 fingers of your left hand and place them in this right region, right past this tendon right here in your arm. And you're going to find your pulse here with the first 3 fingers. See if you can find your pulse. Just take a moment there. It's not always easy, but you should definitely feel it at least in your pointer finger. That's usually the most sensitive finger to the pulse. So that's left hand to the right arm, and then right hand to the heart. And just take a moment here to breathe and feel your pulse. Feel your heart beating under your hands. Feel your pulse beating under your fingers. And just start to find your breath. Deep breath in and out. And as you breathe in, imagine the oxygen that you're introducing to your bloodstream through every breath. And as you breathe out, imagine the carbon dioxide, which is a waste product of the circulatory system. Imagine breathing it out into the world. And feel the cycle as the oxygen enters your blood Imagine that blood flowing to every part of your body and delivering oxygen down on a cellular level, all the way to the tips of your toes and everywhere in between, every nook and cranny of your being. Just imagine that oxygen being delivered. And then imagine your blood scooping up metabolic waste, carbon dioxide, and you can start to kind of pump your leg muscles to move that blood back up to your heart. And here you are, this beautiful system. Breath, and then feel how your pulse can extend beyond your body. Feel the strength of the pulse of your heart and the breathing in your lungs. And imagine this pulse radiates out beyond your body, 3 feet in every direction. This is your electromagnetic field. It is always with you, and it is always there. And it is always contributing to how you affect your surroundings, the grid that we are all a part of. Breathe into that grid. Breathe into that heart electromagnetism and just try to send out some love, some beautiful, healing, positive love into this heart space and out into the world. And then you can kind of come back into your body and release your hands and slowly start to open your eyes, adjust your glasses. Welcome back. Of course, you probably wanted to live there for a little bit longer, but we have to talk about anatomy and physiology now. All right, so let's go from heart to head, right? The primary role of the circulatory system is to transport essential substances such as oxygen, nutrients, hormones, waste products throughout the body, everywhere, every which direction. It plays a vital role in maintaining homeostasis by ensuring that all cells and tissues receive the necessary resources for their function and that waste products are removed effectively. It is everywhere, circulatory system. So let's first talk about the heart. Let's stay in this zone right here. So this incredible muscle, your heart, will beat 2.5 billion times in your lifetime. And before you were born, it already beat around 54 million times before birth. Your heart was developing, starting at around week 3 of your embryonic evolution. And it started out as 2 different tubes, which eventually fused together and started to twist and became your heart muscle. And about after week 8, you have a fully formed heart that at this stage is capable of pumping blood. All of the circulatory system is not yet mature. So the heart has electromagnetism again, and that electricity, that electrical system within the heart, which is responsible for regulating its rhythm, can also create enough electrical voltage to power a small flashlight. The heart also responds to emotions. So stress, fear, happiness, those all affect the heart rate and the heart rhythm, which again ties into the nervous system, which interestingly enough is designed and growing in that embryonic stage in tandem with the circulatory system. Nervous and circulatory system has kind of a parallel structuring during the fetal stage. So again, just that nervous circulatory system piece of connectivity, and then bringing in the endocrine system too, and we'll get into all of that a little bit more in a bit. So the heart, it's the central organ of the cardiovascular system. It's making sure everyone's still with me. I felt a glitch on my end. Okay. It's muscular, it's a fist-sized organ located slightly to the left of the center of the chest, and it consists of 4 chambers. 2 are upper chambers, the atria, and 2 are lower chambers, the ventricles. And along with the help of the lungs, it serves to pump and propel blood throughout the body. And back in April, Patty Lager, who worked with Dr. Morse for many years and was part of our support team here, spoke on the Green Life podcast about how there's all this interesting new evidence about how, you have this heart-shaped muscle that's this big, and it's supposed to be responsible for pumping your blood through thousands of miles of blood vessels. And is it really doing that all on its own, or is there actually more to it? Maybe there's the lungs. The lungs seem to have a very critical role, the diaphragm, in helping to pump the blood, as well as potentially some electrical forces. So there's so much going into just keeping this autonomic nervous system muscle working. It's really fascinating. So here we have the kind of movement of blood through the heart, okay? It's all numbered. So starting with 1, you have these blue veins indicate that this is deoxygenated blood coming in from the body, right? So first it comes into this right atrium here. This is, and then a valve moves it into the right ventricle. And you have both from here, the upper body blood coming in, also from down here, the lower body, all coming into this top right atrium, down to the ventricle, and then out through these pulmonary arteries into the lungs. Okay, so then your blood goes up into the lungs, gets reoxygenated, and through these both left and right pulmonary veins, because veins means that it's oxygenated, delivers oxygenated blood into the left ventricle, or the left atrium, which then goes to the left ventricle and out into the body via the aorta. Okay, so but blood is coming in. We have these valves, which what does that remind you of? It's very similar to the lymphatic valves, how it's a one-way road. Okay, so blood gets pushed through this with the contracting of the heart muscle and the breathing of the lungs. The blood is pushed through this first valve into the second valve, and the valve shuts behind it. So there can be no backflow of blood in the heart and in venous circulation as well. So that's how blood vessels work, as well as the heart. So a little bit more about the heart. There's both systemic circulation as well as pulmonary circulation. Systemic is all of the blood that's going out to the body. So that's the circulatory loop that has, basically it starts, let's see, well, it doesn't really show it in this picture, but the aorta takes it out to the body. And then up here, this is going up into, so yeah, all of the aortic valve takes it to the body. And then you also have the pulmonary loop of the circulatory system, which takes it up to the lungs, okay? So reoxygenation in the blood and then sending it out to the body for systemic circulation, okay? So again, the adrenals play a really critical role in how strong the heart pumps and its rhythm. So adrenaline is released into the bloodstream as part of the fight or flight response. Adrenaline is a potent hormone that has a direct effect on the heart. And when it binds to specific receptors in the heart muscle, it causes several changes: increased heart rate, increased contractibility or contractility, and dilation of the blood vessels, right? So you've got that fight or flight response. You feel your heart rate increase. You're dilating your blood vessels, which is sending more blood out into the extremities because you might need to run. You might need to rescue yourself from the situation. Get out of there. So again, that really important piece where we're tying in the circulatory system to other systems, right? So big one is the endocrine system and those adrenal glands, and your fight or flight response has a huge impact on heartbeat and rhythm and the strength of your heart rate, or excuse me, the strength of your heart pumping. And then you've got the nervous system, which we'll talk more about later too, but obviously the nervous system is triggering that fight or flight response based on what you're experiencing. All right, so now let's talk about the blood. A fluid connective tissue that flows through the cardiovascular system consists of red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma. Red blood cells carry oxygen, white blood cells are your immune cells, so they're protectant, and platelets are essential for helping the blood to clot. Okay, so blood vessels is kind of the overarching term for all of these tubes that are going all over your body. You've got arteries, which are going away from the heart with oxygenated blood. Those are all of the red tubes heading away from the heart here, delivering oxygen to every inch of your body, every organ, every capillary bed, every tissue, every cell. Your blood is everywhere. It's incredible. And then you've got the veins, which are transporting all of that blood once it's deoxygenated, once it's rich with carbon dioxide, back to the heart. So those are the veins. And if you want to try and remember this, it's arteries away, veins return. Okay, capillaries. These are the tiny little capillary beds. These are thin-walled vessels that connect arteries and veins. Okay, so this is the capillary zone. This is really the critical zone for all the good stuff that we talk about with removing acidosis from the body, with getting lymphatic flow going. It's all happening in the capillary beds, and we'll get more into that soon. But this is where waste products between, let's see, so oxygen, it's the exchange of oxygen, nutrients, and waste products between the blood and the body. Fun fact, I said thousands of miles of blood vessels. It's true, you have about 60,000 miles worth of blood vessels in your body if you were to just line them all up in a row, and that would cover the Earth's circumference twice. So that, more than twice, actually. So it's just more attribution to, wow, we are just like little universes unto ourselves. Okay, so let's talk about the composition of blood, because this is a pretty important one too. Like, what is the difference between blood and lymphatic fluid? Where do they merge? Why is one important? What is carrying what? So plasma is really the juicy stuff that we're talking about here when it comes to detoxification. Plasma, so if you were to put your blood after you give blood for blood testing, or whether you're donating blood, no, it's more for blood testing. They're gonna put it in this tube and they're gonna put it in a centrifuge, and it's going to split. It's gonna demulsify your blood and turn it into plasma, white blood cells and platelets, and red blood cells. They all separate out. So your blood consists primarily of blood plasma, and this is the liquid component of blood. It makes up about 55% of its volume. It primarily serves as a transport medium for blood cells and various substances such as, and this is the important part, nutrients, hormones, waste products, okay? This is the stuff. The blood plasma is what is essentially carrying all of the detoxed junk from your lymphatic system and from your capillary beds and taking it to the kidneys to be removed from the body. It's all in the plasma. Then you've got white blood cells. Let's move on to the next slide. So these are the formed elements within your blood. So the more kind of solid, I suppose you could say. You've got white blood cells. These are your immune cells, neutrophils and lymphocytes, and their composition therein. And then you've got platelets, which are cell fragments that play a vital role in blood clotting, hemostasis, and then you've got red blood cells. So these are important for that oxygen delivery system. Red blood cells bind to oxygen due to a protein called hemoglobin. Okay, yeah. So that's the composition of blood, and that's the primary anatomy of the circulatory system. So now we're going to take all of this and try to conceptualize why it's important for detoxification. I'd say number one, thinking back to that slide of the rivers and the tributaries, circulatory system detoxification is all about fluidity. A lot of this sounds familiar to lymphatic system therapeutics as well, or physiology as well. You need to have a healthy amount of hydration in the body through the fruits that you're eating primarily. If you're going to be doing a detox diet, your fruits and your veggies are delivering the best kind of water to the body that you can really imagine, because it's loaded and packed with all these great nutrients. And so you want a lot of that. You want that fluidity, because it contributes to everything we're about to talk about. So water in the body, 2/3 of the body's water lives inside the cells. Okay, so that's where most of our water is within our cells. I love this picture of the cell. It's so like the universe right here. So there's all the blue is all the fluid. Also, the body, by the way, is 60% water. So of that 60%, 2/3 is living inside the cells, and the remaining 1/3 is a combination of extracellular fluid. So that's the fluid outside the cells, both in interstitial fluid, that's all the spaces between cells, as well as cerebrospinal fluid, which surrounds the brain and spinal cord. And then intravascular fluid. So that's the fluid that's within the blood vessels, right? So it's in the arteries, veins, and capillaries, all the water that's in there. Okay, so we have kind of where all the water lives. Now I'm gonna try to bring in this whole body detoxification picture, so bear with me. You've got your capillary beds. This is ground zero for essentially Dr. Morse's cellular regeneration theory, right? This is where blood and lymph meet and exchange fluids. So you're in a perfect scenario, you have nutrient-rich blood because you're eating super healthy, and it's super loaded with healthy water, lots and lots of water, not like your what's I'm looking for? chugging a bunch of water necessarily, but the foods that you're giving your body are really high in hydration. They're very hydrating foods. So you've got all this yummy oxygenated blood coming from the heart that's passed through pulmonary circulation. It's been reoxygenated, and now it's entering into this capillary bed. It's delivering all those nutrients from your healthy foods and all that yummy, watery hydration. And it's bathing all these cells in that liquid, in that yummy fluid. It's bathing them in nutrients, in oxygen, and in water. And so if you have enough of that coming in, it kind of creates this pressure system in there. And you want that pressure slightly so that the lymphatic system then can absorb and move a lot of that fluid out through the lymphatic system to check for any foreign bodies that shouldn't be there, breaking down cells, killing cells, and all of that. And you're delivering hydration to the cells of your body, and then the cells of your body are creating metabolic waste. And so that's the coming in. And then on the going out part, going this way, your blood has collected all of this deoxygenated blood. So all the carbon dioxide buildup in the body is leaving through this vein. And then it is also, having a brain fart. I was on a roll. Yeah, so then you have all of the metabolic waste being removed, going into venous circulation. It doesn't have a pump at this point. The heart is no longer pumping it. It is just having to move through muscle contractions and movement, respiration, stuff like that, to go back to the heart and to get dumped back into circulation. So good things coming in, bad things going out, lymphatic flow picking things up, pressurized system where the more hydration, nutrients, and good stuff coming in, the more your lymphatic system is stimulated to flow, and you are a happy camper. Okay. I think that's all I wanted to say about that. It's capillary beds. We've talked about these with the lymphatic system as well. They are very important to remember because they are highly permeable. So there's this exchange. For example, when oxygen and nutrients are delivered to the cells, they move from the blood plasma in the capillary into the interstitial fluid surrounding the capillary, because there's just one thin layer of epithelial cells, and all of that oxygen, all of that nutrients, all of that water can move through it, pass through it. So they move from the blood plasma into the interstitial fluid, and then conversely, waste products like carbon dioxide, metabolic byproducts move from the interstitial fluid into that capillary, going and combining with the blood plasma. Okay, so your blood plasma has essentially swept up metabolic waste and carbon dioxide and interstitial fluid to keep flowing back to the heart. I hope that's making sense to everybody. So yeah, hydration, the big part of this. And then of course, we've talked about that blood pressure regulation. So as long as you've got a good amount of water coming in, hydration, healthy blood coming in, you should be able to maintain pressure within that system by the lymphatic system removing and helping with that pressure. Yep. And then the kidney function, that's another critical piece of this, because, I was saying, what's the difference between lymphatic fluid and blood? So lymphatic fluid is what's been mopped up. It's interstitial fluid from the capillary bed, and it's all this metabolic waste, cell waste, stuff like that. And then blood has the plasma. So your lymph, when it gets kind of dumped back into general circulation, it's no longer lymph. It kind of emulsifies with your blood and becomes part of blood plasma that then goes to the kidneys to be removed from the body. Yeah? Okay, cool. So that's the intricate web of our circulatory system. Water plays a critical role. Kind of just recapping here, flowing through capillary beds, exchanging vital nutrients. Important balance that's facilitated by the circulatory system is regulation of blood pressure, and the kidneys, fine-tuned control. Okay, so we have all these great herbs that are incredible supports for all of this physiology. Some herbs that are really good at helping to support the constriction of cells, of veins, of blood vessels, and the relaxation of blood vessels, the tonification, the integrity of blood vessels, and the strength of the heart. So we're going to meet a lot of those herbs right now in our herbal therapeutics section. Okay, So done with the anatomy and physiology, now we are going to talk about herbs and go on our virtual herb walk. And these are the primary formulas we'll be focusing on. We've got strong heart, we've got blood circulation, bleeding, blood support. So those are the four herbs in our healthy blood need state section of our site. And then of course, because we just talked about all these things, you have these adjunct formulas that we always like to combine with our blood support formulas. We've got kidneys and bladder, lymphatic drainage, liver, skin, right? So working on that digestive piece of the liver to skin eliminatory pathway, the third kidney, and then of course adrenal support for that fight or flight response. So it's all this bigger picture. We use the healthy blood formulas to support healthy blood, healthy heart, but we always recommend that we also combine those with other body system formulas because it is this whole body health picture. So I'm going to talk about specific herbs in the formulas, and Jen in 2 weeks is going to talk about these formulas and how she pairs them to support specific health needs. And so you're going to want to sign up for that one because it's super informative. And Jen, right now, if you would please add that link to the chat. So you can just click this link that she's adding to the chat and it'll take you right to the GoToWebinar registration page. So you can sign up for that, register for that today, and you don't have to think about it again. We'll send you a bunch of email reminders. Okay, so let's meet our herbs. We don't have multiple categories here. We just have one big category of herbs, which is our proanthocyanins, our flavonoids. These are all different types of antioxidants, and our catalysts, which is a type of warming, stimulating herb that's really supportive for the circulatory system. Okay, I'm gonna take a beat. I think that this is, I added this to the first slide on the herb walk, and it's the picture of the registration page, and it's the picture for the associated blog. Hawthorn is just one of those herbs that is so well known through traditional herbalism for the flower, the leaf, and the berry all being incredibly supportive to the heart and the circulatory system. And it's one of those tonic herbs that's nice to take long term, that's just really good at supporting this system. It's gentle, it's building, it's fortifying. When you think about the red color, those are proanthocyanins, right? And that is a category of flavonoid, which is considered highly antioxidant. So that means it's helping with oxidative stress, which the heart, the heart muscle is working really, really hard, and it's doing so forever. It doesn't really, ideally it doesn't weaken much over time. It's just doing its job for us. So this is one of those herbs that just really elevates and supports the heart muscle to do what it does best, which is just keep on beating in your chest. A fun fact about this Rosaceae family member, so it's in the same family as rose, is that any berry produced by a rose family member is actually called a hip. So you could call this a hawthorn hip, like you would call it a rose hip. They're super full of pectin. Usually when I'm processing hawthorns, they are all over the place. They grow in a lot of Northern Europe, all of Northern China, and Northern California. You could try growing them in most temperate regions, essentially. And they are blooming, or excuse me, they are fruiting this time of year. And so you can actually use a cherry pitter to pit. There's one big seed in the middle of it, sometimes two. And so you can pit them and then make a syrup, something like that. They're included in our strong heart and blood circulation formulas. And hopefully you've had some time to read through all the incredible indications for this herb. If not, remember, we do have the recording of this coming to you soon. So prickly ash, this is a fun one. So notice how the berry or the fruit of the prickly ash looks a lot like a pink peppercorn. They're actually oftentimes used as an alternative to pink peppercorns. And so every part of this plant is spicy and has that kind of peppery flavor. And Dr. Morse uses this herb, the bark specifically, in so many of the formulas that he's created because it is an incredible catalyst. So a catalyst is a category of herbs we're going to touch on quite a bit in the next little bit here when we're talking about all these herbs. So generally when you're building a formula to support any body system, you would want to add a catalyst herb because it's a warming, stimulating herb that helps kind of wake up the circulatory system and deliver all those healthy therapeutic phytochemicals from your formula to the body system that they have an affinity with. So if this is a brain formula, yes, prickly ash is probably in it, or it could be in it to help deliver it, or cayenne could be in it. In fact, in our brain and nervous system, it's cayenne that Dr. Morse used, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But it is in blood circulation, blood support, and liver skin. So it generally promotes perspiration, invigorates the stomach, strengthens the digestive organs when slow, which permits unwanted sluggish fermentation, and at the same time equalizes circulation. And it also contains lignans and cormorins, which are, lignans are a wonderful antioxidant, and they support healthy inflammatory levels. There is some alkaloids in here, which also help with healthy inflammatory levels and for reducing the presence of unwanted organisms in the body. Cormorins in here are aromatic compounds that can help kind of get blood moving, help dilate the blood vessels, things like that. So prickly ash is an incredible circulatory support herb, but beautiful that it's also in so many formulas across the board, just because it's really important that your circulatory system is online. Using an herb like this will help to deliver any herbal supplement you're taking to where it needs to go in the body. Okay, so cayenne, talk about that next. It's a Solanaceae family member. You're probably very familiar with it. It's probably in your spice cabinet in your house right now. So we use the fruit, and this is called the Scoville heat unit scale. It gets 50,000 Scoville heat units, which is kind of right in the middle of pepper intensity. So it is very hot, and those hot constituents in cayenne are what make it an incredible catalyst, right? It's helping to send a formula where it needs to go. It's in our bleeding formula a lot. Our bleeding formula is used for venous integrity, right? So as your blood is returning to the heart, it doesn't have a pump, like I mentioned earlier, and so it can get stuck, because if you're not active enough, if you're not moving enough, if you're not doing leg draining or gua sha or some sort of therapeutic to bring that blood back to the heart, chances are you're having some venous integrity issues where the vein might become a little bit atonic and there might be some sluggishness in there. And I'm not allowed to say any disease states, but you can imagine what would happen next. So this cayenne is really great for venous integrity and just kind of strengthening those capillary walls and strengthening the venous structure. And then just as far as increased sweating, increased circulation, all that great stuff we just talked about with prickly ash, it's a deliverable. It's called an envoy or a catalyst, and we include cayenne or prickly ash in almost every formula across the board. Dr. Morse did, and we are continuing on with those practices. So yeah, cayenne is incredible. Bleeding formula, brain and nervous system, because again, you want a catalyst to bring all of those wonderful therapeutic constituents in brain and nervous system to the brain where they'll do their best work. And it's also in metal detox. Okay, butcher's broom. This is in 10 of Dr. Morse's cellular botanical formulas. So he loves this herb. Fun side note, unrelated to plant therapeutics, butcher's broom earned its name by being bundled and sold to butchers to sweep off their chopping blocks, which you could imagine were probably pretty bloody. So there's like an interesting other association with the blood that butcher's broom was always used for. So it's got prickles on it, it's kind of got prickly leaves. So like many of our kind of catalyst blood stimulants, it's got that prickly nature to it. It's warming, it's stimulating, it's a vascular tonic. All those things we were just talking about with vascular integrity that I mentioned with cayenne is same goes for for butcher's broom. So smooth blood flow, helps with tonifying the blood vessels. And it also is especially helpful for getting blood and moving it out of those lower extremities. It can also be a great mover of the bowel. And it also promotes sweating. So you've got digestive system support, you've got that sweating support, which is that third kidney. Our sweat is an eliminatory pathway from the liver to the skin. And so promoting sweating is always a great way to promote detoxification. So yeah, butcher's broom. Okay. The next two herbs we've met before, ginkgo and rosemary. They are both really wonderful supportive herbs for the brain. So it's interesting that they are also highly indicated for the circulatory system. There's just like this whole obvious, I guess, piece about circulation and brain health. that we really attribute to certain herbs like ginkgo and rosemary. So ginkgo, again, we got flavanol glycosides. I don't know if you knew this, if you have a ginkgo growing on your property or nearby, when it starts to transition into that yellow phase, before it's completely yellow, but as it's transitioning to yellow, that is when you traditionally harvest this herb. It's also survived for more than 200 million years, ginkgo. It's an incredibly honored and ancient plant, and it's really not evolved much over time. It's kind of almost a time capsule, if you will, of a very ancient vascular system, kind of like the way I think of horsetail. Very different structure, but the vascular bundles, which are all these different veins essentially that bring the chlorophyll all the way to the tip of the leaf on the plant, they're all parallel to each other. Whereas when you think of an oak leaf, there's all these branching veins, very similar to the human circulatory system. Ginkgo is like one direct line, all parallel lines. It's a very kind of ancient, primitive vascular system, if you will. So it supports blood circulation to the brain, functioning of the brain, eyes, ears, legs, reduction of occasional stress, healthy memory, attention and speed of thinking. It's just so, it's good for healthy adults and normal cognition, especially in age-related cognitive decline. So, of course, it's in brain and nervous system. It's also in blood circulation. And guess what? Dr. Morse very often pairs these two formulas together. Okay. And then rosemary. Rosemary for remembrance. It's the age-old herb for memory, and it's very pungent. So it's warming, it's stimulating, it's a catalyst. Yes, so added to formulas to heat them up and to help support the stimulation of the nervous system so that blood can move all throughout the body and deliver all those wonderful healing phytochemicals everywhere. It supports healthy inflammatory response and reduced oxidative stress in the brain and nervous system. It's also got the compound 1,8-cineol, which helps to support healthy levels of acetylcholine. So that's a big one. So acetylcholine is a brain neurotransmitter responsible for encoding new memories, reasoning, concentration, cognition, and the growth of new synapses, so neuroplasticity. Okay, so I mean, rosemary is just an incredible herb for the brain and also just general circulation. And I just love that it can be added to a formula to warm it up. And also will kind of have these wonderful therapeutic attributes to it as well. And that is in our blood circulation formula. Go figure, it's helping to circulate the blood, especially to the brain. Okay, yellow dock. So this is kind of a random one, if you will. It's more of a digestive herb, but it's very high in iron. So that's why Dr. Morse included it in our blood support formula. We've already met this herb with our digestive webinar. So you can always go back and learn more about it there, but small doses, it's got tannic astringency to support healthy inflammatory levels in the intestine while also firming up loose stools. And in high doses, it can be a mild laxative. White oak, another one that is very commonly used by Dr. Morse, very high in tannins. So those tannins are tightening, they're tonifying, they're going to tone tissue, okay? So they help to constrict blood vessels, potentially supporting the body's natural healing processes. Internally, white oak's tannic astringency tones lac tissue. So again, back to this vascular integrity. It's a big one, right? It also has quercetin in it, which maybe you recognize from like seasonal discomforts, right? If you're sensitive to pollens, quercetin is something that you would potentially take as a supplement leading up to seasonal shifts to build up the system over time to strengthen the system for any pollen sensitivities. So it's in bleeding, blood support, blood circulation, lymphatic drainage daily. Makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's just helping to kind of like squeeze out, move. Where we don't have a pump returning all that blood to the heart, this is a great supportive herb for helping to kind of squeeze and tighten that venous return. Okay, our last herb is a mint family member. It's also one that we, well, actually it's in strong heart and I don't think it's in our brain and nervous system formula. Let's see. No. Okay. So wonderful nervous system herb. And we've talked about the importance of the relationship between the nervous system and the heart, right? We want to kind of, in fact, there's all these great studies about how the volatile oils or the essential oils in motherwort and in many mint family members seems to have a direct impact on the relaxation of the vagus nerve, which is this big nerve that innervates all of our primary organs, and body systems, and is also a huge part of heart rate variability. So motherwort's really good at just kind of helping to support a calm, healthy nervous system. But it's also got some really great phytochemistry for supporting, let's see, cardiac. It has great cardiac benefits. So yeah, it's written right here. Leonurin is a bioactive alkaloid found in motherwort that is believed to help relax blood vessels, support blood flow to the heart. Okay, and now I'm going to pass it over to Jen for some great dietary therapeutics.
Hi, everyone. Whether you're new to Dr. Morse or you've been around a while, it's always good to revisit our food choices, the combining that we need to really emphasize for just that optimal digestion and absorption process, so your body can actually utilize it. Especially understanding now how the blood is so important in carrying nutrients, oxygen, and hormones to the cells for them to function. So we're just going to take a little time to review how important these food choices are to your body, especially when detoxifying. All right, so again, first time seeing this, welcome, but never hurts to review. So the energy of your foods are extremely important, and the energy of the food reflects the body's food's total chemistry. So when you cook or process these foods, you're really separating that nutrition of the food, and they're missing certain properties that makes them whole. So this is why we focus on 100% raw living foods for the purpose of detoxification, for invigorating and rejuvenating the body and its tissues. So you really, to experience this energy of the foods, you want to focus on, foods that are ripe, they're raw, they're fresh, and especially fruits and veggies. So also, when you separate, the constituents of these foods, it will affect utilization and how your body digests it and absorbs it, and then thus utilizes it. So again, keeping it simple, keeping the foods, fruit and veggies raw, it really takes the burden off your digestive system, so that energy can be diverted to other body systems that might require more of that detoxification power, like the kidneys, the lymph, and the endocrine. So let's go to the next slide, Colleen, if you don't mind. So just a quick overview, how the foods affect your detoxification experience. So fruits are your cleansers. They are the optimal food for what we are meant for that deeper detoxification experience. Veggies are more of your builders for muscle and skeletal tissue. And this really works well for a very mild detoxification experience, or when you're just trying to maintain and create that sustainable lifestyle after, or when you're taking a break. And then nuts and seeds, they are like the structural foods. They're not detoxification foods. They do have nutritional value, but when we're looking at the detoxification experience, they are not ideal for this time. All right, now we're going to go take a look at the different diet levels, just to, especially if you're starting out and you're really new to this and you need to make a transition from a diet that you may not be the greatest. We all have come here and started for a reason. We know maybe physically we just are not feeling our best. So level 1 may be a good place for you to start. It's what we would consider 80% raw, 20% cooked, but it is still only fruits and vegetables. So this is one way to really get going. You're not having meat or proteins, grains, or dairy. You're just really focusing on fruits and vegetables and always combining them properly. Level 2 takes it to a totally different level of 100% raw fruits and veggies. Nothing's cooked. You're just making sure that you consume only fruits and vegetables all day. You can balance it out between you want more fruit versus vegetables, just keeping in mind fruits are your greatest detoxifiers. They are the astringers. They're going to be pulling on that lymphatic system. And then level 3 is that deep detoxification experience, and where it's 100% fruit all the time. And that would bring you into those, fasting levels where you would look at mono fruit fasting or juice fruit fasting and whatnot. So you can gauge where you're at and use these basic levels as a guide to help you progress, and then at times take a break. Especially with winter coming in, we get a lot of questions around this time of year. What do I do? We'll cover a little bit of that in the protocols webinar, but keep these diet levels in mind for sure when you're choosing, the right foods for your path. And next slide, please. There it goes. See, I said food combining before. I probably say it excessively to everybody, and it probably is exhausted, the phrasing, but it is incredibly important because you do need to pay attention how you're combining your foods to avoid that bloating, that fermentation in the gut. We can't emphasize it enough. I'm sure many of you hear Dr. Morse talk about it in his videos. So really emphasizing melons alone, your fruits, subacid fruits combine well with either sweet or acid, but don't combine that sweet and acid category, okay? So just take a look at this chart, pay attention to it, memorize it, and really it will become second nature. You won't even give it a thought. Your body's going to tell you, honestly, when you've combined something properly or not. All right, and next slide, please. All right, attitude. All right, so I've tossed around a little joke before, and some of us who've done this before, either consistently on or off, wherever you are at. Sometimes some days are a little bit more difficult than others, but you really got to remember to keep it positive. It's the physical part of this journey. It is important, but you have that mental and emotional, and definitely that spiritual component that comes in that will help you grow, and you will see that physical change, manifest even further once you really start digging into this and really change your thinking as far as your attachments to food emotionally and mentally, and not just physically. That's usually the first barrier, but you get a little bit further over time. So don't see it as a chore, see it as fun and challenging, a really good way to, show yourself what you are capable of. And remember that it may seem daunting at first, but honestly, it's keeping it really simple, and just try to relax and find it'll be energizing, but in just such an amazing way. I just encourage you all to experience it if you're just starting out. So just keep it simple, keep it raw, fruits and veggies, and good luck. And I look forward to talking about this a little bit more with y'all in the next webinar.
Thank you, Jen. Amazing. Apologies for my cursor, just like going wild while
okay.
y'all are trying to pay attention to Jen, because just the way that my module is set up here, I have to move my cursor a lot. So anyway, thanks for that. Okay, so we have a few minutes left. I do want to try to have a few minutes for questions, but we do still have a few other great therapeutics for this system. So again, with venous return, there is no pump. So remember, this is one of my favorites. I actually love doing this in a sauna. I'm totally that. What do I call it? Anyway, I don't remember what I call it. But anyway, I go into the sauna and I put my legs up against the wall. Yeah, I'm a self-Karen. Oh, that's what it was. A self-care Karen. Anyway, so I just take up a lot of space in the sauna is what I'm saying. So anyway, you let the blood drain out of the legs this way, and it's just a really great way to promote venous return. Muscular contractions, breath, and gravity are really the only ways that your blood has to return to the heart. I believe there was a question about venous return. So this is all deoxygenated blood. The veins are taking it back to the heart to reoxygenate it. And so you need to kind of help them along through that process, whether it's through moving your body, deep breaths, or gravity. And then I really wanted to make sure we talked about heart rate variability because I find it super fascinating, and I'm sad that I don't have more time to talk about it. But check out HeartMath. They're an incredible resource. Heart rate variability, we all have it. It's your heart's ability to maintain variation between the high highs and the low lows. The more variable your heart, so whether it's pumping fast or slow, right? Whether you're in rest and digest or fight or flight, it's essentially tracking those ups and downs of the heart rate. That is called variability. So as your heart rate goes up with a fight or flight response or a stress situation, your heart rate goes up. It's reading all of that. And it's reading all of that just using an ECG or an EKG machine. And it's essentially telling you how good your heart rate variability is. And believe it or not, unlike many other things out there, heart rate variability, you want it to be up. You want high heart rate variability. That means that your heart is able to adjust quickly It means that your heart is paying attention, active, activated. And so, yeah, as you're moving through your day and you're experiencing stressors, you're experiencing moments of Zen, your heart rate is adjusting appropriately. So the higher your heart rate variability, the better you are. And here's some great ways to kind of help increase your heart rate variability. So oftentimes it's kind of down regulation. It's calming, deep breathing, relaxation techniques. And then, so that's kind of a calming, bringing you to that calm state, that rest and digest state. And then regular aerobic exercise or strength training, that's a great way to bring you into the upregulated or the high heart rate, healthy sleep, stress management, and healthy diet. But what I was really going for with this was this electromagnetism of the heart. So heart math, I think, was one of the first places to really find this reading. But your heart, as I was doing in our earlier guided meditation, your heart emanates an electromagnetic wave that moves far beyond your physical body. You have a 3-foot radius around your heart where you're emitting electromagnetic waves or frequency based on what you're feeling. So the heart is this emotional muscle. I mean, it's really reacting to the brain is what's happening, but we always associate the heart as being the base of our emotion, the home of our emotion, right? So as it beats and as whatever you're experiencing is emanating out into this grid, as the heart math folks like to call it, it's what you're feeding the grid. So if you're kind of always kind of in that negative space, thinking dark thoughts, sending out negative energy, it is moving beyond your body. It is impacting the people around you, the animals around you, the earth around you, the air around you. And it's harder to get out of that space if you're kind of always in it and emanating it. So it's always a great reflection to ask yourself, what did you feed the grid today? Did you take a moment to really sit and breathe into that heart space and feel it emanate love, gratitude, into intention? The heart is a powerful, powerful source for healing. And as we collectively work on our healing journey together to help heal the earth, we can also work on our emotional state of being and our heart rate and our heart electromagnetism to send that message out to the world as well. And with that, let's get to your discount codes, which you've all been waiting for. So Cardio 15, if you plug that in right now, you will get discounts on all of these products: bleeding, blood support, blood circulation, strong heart, kidney bladder daily, liver skin, lymphatic drainage daily, and adrenal support. So I'm going to leave this slide up while we talk for 2 minutes, a little Q&A. Jen, are there any questions left that we want to cover?
Yeah, I actually do have one for you. It was regarding cayenne, and
Okay.
the question involves the thyroid, and as far as its activity when it's either hypo or hyper. Do you have any comments on cayenne and use in any of those cases? Maybe when something's under or overactive. It might pertain to every endocrine gland, really.
Yeah, I would say cayenne is a stimulant. And so for folks that are, have hyperthyroidism, it's definitely contraindicated to use a stimulant like that. You're already working in a hyper state, and it's more about bringing yourself down from that, supporting yourself with adrenal support formulas and things like that. Cayenne could potentially be, indicated for more sluggishness, more hypo states, right, to help stimulate in that way. And let's see. Yeah, but I would definitely always speak with a healthcare professional, especially if you're on any sort of pharmaceutical medication, which I'm guessing most of you aren't. But just to be safe, I have to always say that. Yeah. And another great support for any thyroid issues, besides all of our incredible endocrine formulas, we have a specific thyroid support formula, which I would recommend, which has bladderwrack in it, which is a type of seaweed that is really great at supporting healthy thyroid function.
Awesome. Very, very good. And had a lot of, everybody's loving this and all the detail, and a couple questions, well, actually a few questions I saw came through. If we've got the time, could you just quickly review, how the blood flows, through the heart, and just to clear up any confusion surrounding what the arteries do and what the veins do, which one's oxygenated and which one is not. And that's probably all we'll have time for.
This might be the best slide. Yeah, no kidding. So again, the capillary beds are where the exchange happens. Oxygenated blood is always coming in through the arteries. Arteries carry oxygen. Arteries are these red ones that are all, the arrows are pointing away from the heart. You see that? So you have this pulmonary loop, which is probably where people are getting confused. You have deoxygenated blood coming into the heart, and then it's still deoxygenated as it's being pumped to the lungs, and then it gets oxygenated and it goes back to the heart before it leaves the body and goes to circulation. Okay, so there's a second loop. You got the first loop here, which is systemic circulation, and then the blood comes to the heart, it gets sent to the lungs. All blood that comes to the heart first goes to the lungs to get reoxygenated, and then goes back to the heart before it goes out to the body. Okay, so then it goes out to the body, it goes into those capillary beds, it delivers that oxygen, and it becomes deoxygenized or deoxynate, I don't know. The hemoglobin that was holding onto that oxygen releases it. It goes through those permeable capillary walls and it goes into the interstitial fluid, where it's then kind of just washing over our cells and our tissues and oxygenating them. We have to have oxygen in our tissues to survive. Deoxygenated blood is then picked up right here by the blue in the venous circulation. So the veins deoxygenate the blood. No oxygen in this blood. Carbon dioxide, metabolic waste product, all of that stuff is in here. And then it gets delivered to the heart to be reoxygenated. And I saw a question about the lymph and how it's involved in all of this. What's the difference between lymph and blood? So in the capillary bed, there's also lymph capillaries. So they're picking up a portion of that blood, right? What the blood is delivering. So it's not actual red blood cells that leak out of the capillaries. It's just fluids, it's oxygen, and it's nutrients that are leaking out of these permeable capillary walls, okay? And then the lymph is going to pull up. The lymph is more cleaning out the interstitial fluid. It's not so much what is delivered by the oxygenated blood that it's grabbing all that interstitial fluid that's been sitting in that capillary bed, and it's absorbing it into lymphatic circulation. So some of that water that was delivered and some of that oxygen that was delivered by the blood is going in there, but mostly it's picking up metabolic waste products. So as the cells are growing and dying within your capillary beds all over the body, the lymphatic tissue is picking up all that waste and processing it to see if there's anything in it. So that's all lymphatic fluid. Once it gets into lymphatic circulation, it's no longer blood. It's no longer plasma. It's called lymphatic fluid, okay? So the lymphatic fluid stays in lymphatic circulation all the way until it gets back here to this dumping station, essentially, where it dumps back into the circulatory blood. Notice that it dumps right back in right before the blood goes into that right atrium, okay? So the lymph dumps back into the blood, it emulsifies. That's a term we use when we're making lotion. It basically comes and becomes part of the blood. It becomes part of the plasma. It's all the same fluids, but it gets a different name. So it becomes blood plasma, and it's got all that metabolic waste. And then the second time around, theoretically, it's going to the kidneys and it's being eliminated from the body. So I hope that clears all of that up. Very quick recap there, but yeah, I think that's all we have time for. Jen, what do you think?
Yes. Yep, I think that's all we have time for. Just a reminder to everyone that this webinar will be available 24 to 48 hours after this is completed. It will be sent to your email, so you will be notified. As always, if you have additional questions, you can reach us through the chat feature on the website or info@dmhhc.com. And yeah, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Colleen. This has been a really enjoyable webinar. This is definitely one we all have to go back and watch again.
Amazing. Glad everyone enjoyed it. It was my pleasure. And we hope to see you in 2 weeks for our protocols webinar with Jen.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Thanks. Bye.